Mark's legs were on fire as he sprinted down the endless hallway, his bare feet slapping against the tiles. The sound of the doctor's synchronized footsteps pounded closer behind him, and his lungs felt like they were about to burst. He turned a corner, yanked open the first door he saw, and slammed it shut, leaning against it with his chest heaving. The room was small, dimly lit by a single lamp in the corner, and the air was thick with the stale stench of mildew. Pressing his ear to the door, he heard the footsteps pass by, then silence, absolute silence. He dared not breathe. Slowly, he scanned the room, spotting an open cabinet with files scattered across the floor, yellowed with age. Crouching down, he picked one up, and the folder cracked at the spine. His heart dropped as he saw his name printed neatly at the top. Flipping it open, his blood ran cold. It detailed his entire life school records, medical history, even nightmares he'd never shared. At the bottom, a chilling line read, "Admission date, tonight." Hands shaking, he dropped the folder, the sound echoing too loudly. The lamp flickered once, then went out, plunging him into darkness. He staggered back, slamming into a cabinet, metal clattering and files scattering. Suddenly a voice whispered directly into his ear, "Welcome back, patient." The darkness erupted with whispers, hundreds of voices overlapping. Mark stumbled forward, clawing at the door and yanking it open, bursting into the hallway. But it wasn't the same corridor anymore. The walls were cracked, tiles missing, and water dripped from the ceiling. The lights glowed a dim red instead of white, and the air reeked of rot. The hallway stretched on endlessly, and as he stumbled forward, he shook every door he passed, each one locked. Behind the glass windows, figures lay on beds, their eyes wide open, staring directly at him, their mouths moving silently, forming the same word over and over. "Run." Mark slammed his fists against the doors, but they didn't budge. Turning another corner, he froze. At the far end of the hall stood Sarah, her hospital gown torn, hair loose, face pale, eyes glassy. She raised a trembling hand, beckoning him. "Sarah." He shouted, sprinting toward her, but the closer he got, the further she seemed to drift, the halls stretching impossibly long. She whispered his name softly, almost lovingly, before her face contorted, twisting grotesquely. Her mouth stretched too wide, eyes bleeding black, as she screamed in a voice that wasn't hers. "You can't leave." Terror flooded his chest. The floor cracked beneath him, tiles splitting open as black hands clawed up, grabbing at his ankles. He kicked free and sprinted through another door into a stairwell. The air grew colder with every level, his breath fogging in front of him. The walls were covered in handprints smeared dark red, and the steps were slick underfoot. At the bottom, a heavy metal door marked exit awaited. His heart soared as he shoved it open, stumbling out into blinding light. When his vision cleared, he stood outside under a dark sky, rain falling cold and heavy. Relief washed over him. He was free. But then his heart stopped. The parking lot was full of cars, twisted, smashed, burned, their windows shattered. Inside every one of them sat a body, slumped and unmoving, hundreds of cars stretching into the dark beyond. He staggered back, shaking his head, whispering, "No, no, no." Looking for the street, he found nothing but blackness, swallowing the horizon. A voice echoed from the hospital doors behind him, soft and calm. "You never left." Mark spun around as pale doctors spilled out, their masks blank, hands outstretched. He ran the other way, weaving through the rows of wrecked cars. The figures inside the vehicles turned their heads in unison, watching him with dead eyes glowing faintly. He tripped, falling hard onto the wet pavement. When he looked up, Sarah stood above him again, this time smiling, her stitched lips splitting wide. She leaned down, whispering in his ear, "You were never supposed to wake up." Mark screamed, shoving her away and sprinting again, but no matter which direction he ran, the parking lot stretched on, forever cars, endless bodies, endless rain. He collapsed onto his knees, sobbing, vision blurring. Then he noticed the hospital looming behind him. No matter how far he had run, it was always there. Its windows glowing orange, its sign flickering faintly, Hollow Creek Memorial Hospital. He had never heard that name before, but it carved itself into his mind, the letters burning. When he blinked, he was inside again, lying on a gurney, bright lights overhead, Sarah at his side, whispering, "You're okay, you're safe, you're at the hospital." Mark sobbed, shaking his head. No, no. This isn't real. Her smile twitched, stretching too wide as she whispered softly but firmly, "It's always been real." The doctors moved closer, their masks dripping black liquid, hands stretching unnaturally long, closing around his wrists and ankles, holding him tight. He screamed, thrashing, but the straps snapped around him out of nowhere, binding him to the bed. The light above flickered brighter, blinding, and when it dimmed again, the room was full, beds lining the walls. Everyone occupied, each patient with his face, eyes open, mouths moving in perfect unison. You belong here forever. The doctors lowered their tools, glinting sharp, their shadows merging into one enormous figure that leaned close, faceless, whispering hollow words inside his mind. You never survived the crash. You never made it here. You've always been here. Mark screamed so loud his throat tore, but the sound was swallowed by the endless hospital halls. The lights went out one by one, the voices chanting louder until there was only blackness, and the steady rhythm of footsteps closing in again, forever.